I think we can sing without it anyway.
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth of soul. Our home is girt by sea, our land abounding nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Please be seated.
Councillors, I'm seeking a motion to move the council meeting early by 20 minutes. Move Councillor Dean, seconded by Councillor Briggs. Do I have anybody who want to speak against that? I'll put that. All in favour? Aye. Carried unanimously. So we are going to be looking at GR1, Review of Council's Position on Wilton, which is on page 6 of the council meeting. And we have a recommendation on page 10, but we do have an alternate recommendation. And I'm going to read it through. GR1 alternate. 1. The Council writes to the New South Wales Premier and the Minister for Planning, informing them that Council withdraws its in-principle support for Wilton Newtown and will reconsider its position once the following matters have been addressed. A. Immediate commencement of a business case for the delivery of electrified passenger rail services to the Shire, including the construction of a spur line via the Melbourne-Dumbarton Rail Corridor and new train station at Wilton Newtown. B. An integrated healthcare precinct of not less than 10 hectares in area be identified north of the Melbourne-Dumbarton Rail Line and integrated within the Town Centre Master Plan. This must enable the future provision of healthcare facilities that will provide primary, secondary and tertiary hospital level care at full development of Wilton Newtown. C. Demonstration that the New South Wales Government and or the developers can deliver the required one permanent, ongoing, full-time job for each dwelling generated by Wilton Newtown. A revised retail hierarchy embedded in the statutory planning framework that limits the floor area of supermarkets outside the proposed town centre to not more than 1,500 square metres, consistent with the intended neighbourhood service level and the Department of Planning and Environment's Planning for the Future of Retail discussion paper. This is intended as a crucial measure to prevent the forestalment of the early establishment of the town centre precinct as articulated in advice to the Department by Urvis dated 26 May 2017. D. That the New South Wales Government defer any further release of land within the Greater Macarthur Growth Area and Wilton Priority Growth Area until the New South Wales Government prepares and finalises a south-western Sydney koala conservation strategy that protects koalas and their habitat corridors throughout the region. The conservation strategy should 1. Be underpinned by approved, integrated, comprehensive koala plans of management for Wallandilly, Campbelltown, Liverpool, Wingecarribee and Wollongong local government areas in accordance with Schedule 1 and Part 3 of the State Environment Planning Policy 44, Koala Habitat Protection. 2. Include koala habitat and corridors with reference to the updated koala food tree species list and has been provided by OEH for the current review of Set 44 and request that the review of Set 44 be finalised. E. All matters raised in Council's Notice of Motion number 3 from 19th of February 2018 be considered along with all submissions previously made by Council and a report prepared by the Department of Planning and Environment responding to each of the issues raised in detail. F. The rezoning of the portion of Wilton South East Precinct that forms a part of Allens Creek Primary Koala Habitat Corridor be repealed by the Minister for Planning. G. A commitment be given to the special infrastructure contribution that the upgrade of Picton Road to 2 lanes in both directions from the Hume Highway to Macarthur Drive occur in the early stages of infrastructure delivery. H. The New South Wales Government detail the potential loss of coking coal due to urban growth and provide relevant justification for the decision to sterilise a limited and nationally significant resource. 2. that a further report be referred to an ordinary meeting of council in June outlining any responses from the New South Wales Government to the matters above. 3, that council writes to the Federal Minister for the Environment and Energy requesting that Sydney's last koala population be protected under the Federal Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act 1999. 4, that council seek involvement from interested community representatives to assist council in the further promotion of council's A Great New Town or No Town at All campaign. 5, that the draft petition to the Speaker and members of the New South Wales Legislative Assembly seeking that the Parliament debate the repeal of the rezoning of the South East Precinct as tabled at extraordinary meeting be endorsed by council for circulation immediately following the meeting. That upon 10,000 signatures being received, council formally requests that Jai Rao, member for Wallandilly, present the petition to the New South Wales Legislative Assembly. 6, that this petition be incorporated into a koala habitat preservation campaign as part of a Great New Town or No Town at All campaign. This petition should be also sent to the local government association and community groups that neighbours the last Sydney koala habitat requesting support for the petition. 7, that council seeks legal advice on actions available to A, repeal or amend the Wilton Southwest Environmental Planning Instrument, B, have a moratorium made on the rezoning of further Wilton Newtown precincts, C, options for protection of the Allens Creek Koala Habitat Corridor. 8, that council seeks further information through GIPA to understand the process and relationship between the state government, its policy advisors and developers in their plans for the southwest growth area, including the M9 orbital corridor. 9, that council hold a community event to highlight the importance of Allens Creek corridor and lobby the state government to preserve this critical corridor. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded, Councillor Deeb. I'm going to give each councillor an opportunity to speak to this evening. But before I do, I just need to make a couple of comments. I really thank community for your coming along attendance tonight and the interest that you've all taken. I need to ask you a question up front because obviously I'm being told something very different by a national radio media person. I'm being told that the people of Appin and Wilton are busting to get affordable houses through Appin and Wilton. Can I have a show of hands who is not busting to get it? Thank you. I just hate to be out there representing you and saying something when somebody else knows you better than I do. I would start with the statement that government make all the time, and it's at no cost to government. What about cost to our community? I don't think I have ever been so passionate, so angry about something as what is going on at this point in time. We're not against Wilton Newtown. We want Wilton Newtown. We want it to be fantastic. We want it to proceed. And we've been asking many questions over and over again, but we're not getting any answers. Not only are we not getting any answers, but things are being rezoned just ahead of what we would say is a reasonable time. We're not saying delay this thing forever. We were saying give us a couple of months. Let's get this master planning done. Let's get it planned correctly. So we're not against it. But we have to take this strong stance at this point in time because otherwise we're going to continue to not get any of the answers that we need. As Wallandilly, we know we're already deprived of really the basic infrastructure that one would consider as essential, living so close to Sydney. Phone access. I know that out here there's not even good phone access. No electrified rail, no hospital. A high school for less than a quarter of our students in the area, and no tertiary education. I would also add we have no democratic representation as we now have IHAPs. So every time somebody writes to one of our councillors about a DA that's really worrying them, we have to say, I'm really sorry, but we as councillors can no longer help you because now our Minister for Planning has given us independent hearing panels. I really get quite angry about this. And this is a minister whose advisor thinks that he's going to come and be our Member of Parliament who lives somewhere else. We have a national radio host that's roasting myself and council for wanting infrastructure. Wanting infrastructure for a city the size of Port Macquarie. He's saying that it should go ahead and we all want affordable housing. I have to add, if you actually look at ABC Media Watch, the same media gentleman some years ago was paid, according to them, was paid $250,000 per annum to work with them as a consultant. This is someone who states your mayor is standing for pre-selection, which is absolutely wrong or a lie, and I wonder whose pre-selection he's worried about. Someone who states that the people of Appin and Wilton are crying out for affordable housing. Wrong, as we just saw, unless the only people that came tonight were people that were worried about it. I challenge him to come. I'm not going to get on his radio station where he can turn me off or turn me down or say whatever he wants, but I challenge him to come out and visit the people of Wilton. Come out, have a look, but please come by public transport. He also talks about affordable housing, how we need affordable housing. And as we see the figures tonight, nothing there is going to be affordable, I'm sure. And we could give affordable housing. We could take a place in the desert that nobody wants to be, and we could give people free housing. But what will happen to those people when they don't have the services, when they don't have the transport, when they can't get to jobs? What will happen to them? Will that be the right thing for those people? I don't believe so. This is our community and it's not their community. I have questions and none of them are being answered. Why has this been rezoned prematurely on a Friday afternoon, just before a council meeting that was going to address it? At the same time, we've got Alan Jones carrying on about it. No state infrastructure's been signed off, when it would only take a couple of months to get it all sorted out. And let's not forget the koalas. The OEH report on the 5th of April said to avoid new development. So they're going against their own advice and they're taking the report commissioned by the developers. Question 2. And it relates to the M9 corridor because I think the whole thing is connected. And talk about conspiracy theories, I'm sure the whole thing's connected just to be able to let developers stamp over us with housing. Why is it that the M9 corridor was avoiding all developers' land and ending up here? And why did developers get to see the plans as cabinet in confidence before council and the community? We just had an update from Transport this evening before we came here, and I have to tell you I have no better answers to that. When we asked the questions that they're planning this M9 corridor for 10 to 20 years, and I said, well, the people of Wilton Town will be built if you have your way by then. Why wouldn't you be planning for something where you actually know development is happening right now? They don't really have an answer. They're just going to draw this corridor that will just open this area up to development. Question 3, what does state government consider to be affordable housing? And what percentage of the rezoned land is going to be affordable housing? I believe that it won't be much of it. Question 4, what will the limit of the number of houses be? Obviously it started off in this particular zone area that's been rezoned at 2,600, then it went to 3,000, then 3,600. Where are the increase in the jobs? Where are the jobs for the first 2,600? And as we all know, there's a new zoning that's now gone across here that will allow more housing. And when you actually when that was on exhibition, that didn't exist. So people that make submissions were not able to make submissions on the grounds of the new housing development zone that's in place now. So I think it should be rezoned with that. Question 5, where are the answers addressing not only council submission but those of the community? People take a lot of time and effort to put in submissions. Are those submissions taken on board? Are they part of the process? Or are they just part of the process to seem accountable? So, I have to say I'm pretty strong, and I don't mind people slating me and calling me a dope or untalented. But it does hurt. I've got a new saying that says, I won't be throwing the towel in, I'll be just using the towel to wipe off the sweat. So Alan Jones changed his rant today to say that I'm no longer running for pre-selection and I'm running as an independent. Maybe that's a good idea. You know, he says as mayor I don't have a right to have my photo on things, but you know what, as mayor I do, because I'm representing this area. Maybe he's got a good idea. And it's about giving our community a choice, not him. I think my councillors, you'll find, will probably be unanimous. I'll be surprised if there's not. This is not about me. This is about our community. And every councillor here will have a say about this tonight. So I'm going to hand this over to Matt Deep as the seconder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your speech. I think we can agree with a lot of your points that you've raised there. If you have been following, avid follower of council, you will have seen many, many times that this council has spoken on the number of issues in Wilton. Not only that, I think if you've been watching for a long time, you will see the consistency with which this council approaches the serious concerns and assuring that we're wanting to deliver a great community out at Wilton. So just as an overview, as just a quick snapshot of what are those things that we're looking for, it's one, we actually want to provide a great community, and we actually see Wilton as providing housing for Sydney's greater needs. We actually want to see quality jobs at a ratio of 1 job per house. We want to see strong public transport links. We want to see infrastructure delivered up front with clear thresholds and accountability attached, delivered through the Land Use and Infrastructure Plan. We want to see our road network planned properly. We want to see planning for health services to be delivered with land set aside for future needs. This council has been consistent since 2011, 2013, 2015, and 2017, and now 2018. At all points have we never wavered from what we desired for our community. So the question is, why are we striving for the betterment of our community? Because I received a Facebook message, and the Facebook message read that the railway will never come through Wilton. Picton Road is getting upgraded. You cannot stop development or amend it. Perhaps that comment is right. But should that stop us from striving what we believe to be the best possible outcome for our community? We deserve to know how our community is going to be impacted and how it won't be disadvantaged due to poor planning. I heard the arguments tonight that we should just get on and build it. Don't delay any longer. I think that we can all agree that we very much want to get on with the job, but at what cost? What will be the cost to our community if the New South Wales government gets this wrong? What will be the best possible outcome for our community? We are talking about a city that will be here for decades and decades to come. I personally don't want to see Wilton destined to become a substandard satellite suburb of Campbelltown, where our only hope for connectivity is sitting in congestion and a lack of opportunity for our children. Our children shouldn't have to settle for affordable housing in a city with no infrastructure, no public transport and no jobs. What is wrong with taking a little bit more time to get this right? So where are we at? We as a council do not have any skin in the game. We've been cut out of the decision-making process, and to make things worse, the rezoning process has been structured in a way that at no point can council be involved in any amendments, and will have limited involvement in even drafting the development control plan. Our submissions to date have been ignored and no response has been received by any government department. We have had countless opportunities for consultation and feedback. The community is tired and frustrated, and None of any of the consultation has even been answered or considered. So a snapshot of one of the changes that we're looking at from the rezoning at Wilton South East. A couple of key points are no amendments or explanations being given to the communities about their submissions. No state infrastructure plan is in place to ensure the right infrastructure is provided at the right time. No funding agreement is in place for community infrastructure via a voluntary planning agreement. Not a single response from the Department of Planning to Council about the number of unresolved issues with the overall plan for Wilton and the Wilton South East precinct. An increase in housing density and dwellings to 3,600, and increase in expected population to 9,600 just in this one precinct. A decrease in the size of the public school that is to be provided to maximise an increase in dwellings. A lack of jobs for the population, and woefully short of Council's goal of one job per house. A basic bus service with no passenger rail will be provided, with no agreement to who will fund it after the developers leave. A urban development zone which has not been exhibited and has now been added, and will allow flexible zonings and an increase in medium to high density areas. Water and sewer coordination across the entire site on the edge of the Nepean River has not even been resolved. We are also kicking the can down the road on a number of other issues, in particular our koalas. Council staff will need to consider the controls from the State Environment Planning Policy amendment in 2018. In this regard, Clause 6.2 arrangements for the designated state of public infrastructure states that development consent must not be granted for the subdivision of land in urban release areas if the subdivision would create a lot smaller than the minimum lot size permitted on the land immediately before the land became in part an urban release area, unless the planning secretary has certified in writing to the consent authority satisfactory arrangements have been made to contribute to the provision of designated state public infrastructure and in relation to that of. So what does that mean? That means that this cannot go ahead until the SIC has been resolved. We don't have a SIC. How possibly can we proceed? This is kicking the can down to the DA stage and making it a council issue. We've also seen the decimation of the Allens Creek corridor, which you've seen in the presentation tonight. And in Council's opinion, the evidence from our Save Our Species program and previous reports suggests that the area is core habitat and defined by SEP 44. And if this rezoning was run by Wallandilly Council, SEP 44 would dictate that Council could not approve the proposal until a comprehensive koala plan of management was prepared prior to the finalisation of the rezoning. This hasn't happened for this rezoning. This process, as it stands, defers the conversation to the development application phase, and what this means is that Council will have to fight, which means if it goes to the Land and Environment Court, it ultimately costs ratepayers rather than the issue being resolved prior between the developers and the state, New South Wales state government. Therefore, a direct social impact cost is incurred by our community. Council wants to see the development of a south-western Sydney conservation strategy, including Wilton and Greater Macarthur area, and the rezoning and any development be deferred until a comprehensive koala plan and management is prepared and secures the corridors. The argument needs to be made tonight to councillors whether we stay inside the tent or whether we stay outside of the tent. I think you will all agree that we have been inside the tent for a number of years now. I haven't seen a single piece of evidence, any piece of correspondence from the Department of Planning or the New South Wales state government that has made any commitment or has considered anything that the council has raised that we can share with our community that has been provided. I think that the time has come that we need to think about our position outside of the tent. We have had a strong advocacy campaign that has had far more impact and actually delivered more results than if we continue to be inside the tent working with the Department of Planning. The other issue, which is the elephant in the room, is that we have the front runner in the Liberal pre-selection of Nat Smith, who's previously a councillor on Cogra Council, who now lives in Sans Souci, has had failed attempts to parachute into other safe Liberal seats. And most importantly, he is a staffer to the Minister of Planning, Anthony Roberts. This is a man who has been parachuted into the safe seat of Wallandilly to oversee the development of our home. Not only that, the links to his former past in the Department of Planning strike me as a clear conflict of interest in representing our community. I would suggest that the Minister of Planning and the factions driving this agenda need to stop playing games with the places that we live. We need someone that represents our community and our home. At the end of the day, we need to ask the question, what legacy will we leave behind? Are we happy to stand by our decision to support the development as it stands? What will that look like in 20, 30 and 50 years' time? If not, why would we consider it now? I was once optimistic that all stakeholders could build a city that we could all be proud of. After all is said and done, actually Fiona summed it up really well, and I've actually said it before, it is our community, not the developers, the Department of Planning or the politicians that will pay the ultimate price for poorly implemented and rushed decisions. I believe the beautiful quote that I'll leave you with is from Winston Churchill: what is the use of living if it is not to strive for noble causes and to make this muddled world a better place for those who live in it after we have gone?
I'll ask, do I have any councillors that want to speak against the motion? You wouldn't dare, Councillor Briggs. Well, you can if you like. It's democracy, you know. Do I have a councillor? Shall I just pass the microphone to the end? You don't need to, you just say what you need to say.
I wanted to go last, but anyway. Firstly, thank you everybody for coming tonight. It's a really big attendance and well done. There's some great speeches that have just been done by the Mayor and Councillor Deeth, and I think it's a really good motion that we've got up, and I just want to perhaps be a little bit different and talk about 3 or 4 of the issues that I feel are embedded in the report. Traffic was mentioned before by a couple of speakers. If on RMS guidelines, if we just go with the 3,600 developments there's an average of 7 traffic movements per day from a home. So you're looking at 20,000 extra traffic movements. Okay, maybe the 3,000 homes will take some time to come, but we do have the other 3 precincts happening. And of course, we've got the Lead-Lease one as well, which will basically triple in development. We've seen Oran Park was mentioned before, and I think that is a really good example. I used to work up at Narellan, and we all know what the bad name Narellan Road has. But if we don't jump up and down now, we're going to get another Narellan Road out here, clearly. All right? Last Friday, and I've mentioned this to a few people, and this is on my Scots honour, so to speak, I was coming from Picton, going through Wilton to head down to Wollongong. It took 4 traffic light movements to get through those intersections at 5 o'clock, and I nearly got stuck in the middle in the both. Right? So you add all this extra development. Clearly, we've got potentially a Narellan Road or Camden Valley Way, and you're going to have that, sadly, because you're going to, once the development's fully done, you'll probably have 2 traffic lights on the other side of the highway, and you'll have the 2 that are existing there, and one that's turning into Old Wilton, and perhaps one at further down at the MacArthur Road as well. So you could come up to about 6 traffic lights. So imagine how bad that's going to be. Clearly, infrastructure needs to come first. The cultural things has got to change, where infrastructure is not at the end, it's at the beginning. It happens in other states, I don't know why. The last time we had any vision with infrastructure was probably when the Harbour Bridge was built. Sadly. The other one is really a pet project of mine, well not of mine, interest of mine is the koalas, and I thank Damien for he's really a good ambassador as an employee, but I particularly thank the community groups that are out there. Constantly, if we look, sadly almost twice a week, we see a dead koala all over social media. And those good people, they go out and they try to save them, etc. We've got a duty to do that. Councillor Larry might talk about this more, but the first European koala sighting was very close to here, okay? So we have a duty to do that. And I appeal to the Walkers developers that they're not bad people, right? That they've put in their development, but I ask them please to reconsider developing in that koala habitat. That would be a really good example to do that, to not develop in that koala habitat area. The other one, of course, is public transport, which is basically non-existent in our shire. We don't even have a through train service from Picton. The Mayor spoke earlier about we had a presentation about the M9, and the General Manager of Campbelltown was there. Lindy won't mind me commenting. At the moment, of the car parks at the stations at Campbelltown, that's basically growing Macarthur, Campbelltown and Lamia, I think it was 65% of people parked there are not Campbelltown people. They're from Wollondilly or Camden or whatever, right? So where are all the good people from here going to go? They're going to go and park over there. So it's going to be terrible for people to get to work. Sadly, 70% of our shire travels out of the shire. The last one I wanted to talk about was what you see is what you don't get, so to speak, right? I remember, I think I'm the only one that was there, when we approved the Bengara development. You'd be pleased to know I voted against that actually, but I will perhaps declare one conflict. My son lives in there, and there's a beautiful home, and there's wonderful people in there. But they got approval for, I think it could be a few numbers out, a couple of developers in the audience might correct me. There's 1,125 lots, right? Well, it's going to 1,800 lots because the developer actually took council to court. There was a comment before, it was council. We got done like a dinner report, as they would say, didn't we, Chris? So there's an increase of over 50%. So I think you're right, the 3,600 will change, it'll go up. There's an old saying, okay, and it's not a nice one, but it's true. Give a developer a square inch and they'll build a row of houses.
And well done to our Mayor and Councillor Deeth for the known and very passionate delivery of where you stand on the issue. So about a year ago or more, at a media event for Wilton New Town, I stood before the cameras and stated what I believed then and hope now, that Wilton would be an inspirational build and an aspirational location for people to live in. And I got to feel that that's slipping a little, without any doubt. That's probably slipping a fair bit. But that's what we want. And the message that you've picked up tonight is that we've remained completely consistent. We haven't said anything different, really, than what we were saying 18 months ago, and then prior to many of us on council, the councils before us. I know a lot of you have looked at the department website, and I've just been looking through it, and I look at the issues that they picked up on in high school capacity, and I commend Dr. Quamby and Anglican Education for standing ready to step in and provide a high school in this precinct. We probably need a public high school. We need a lot more assurance from the Department of Education than what we've had thus far. And then the department also picks up on a concern about transport. Well, it's a little bit of a no-brainer. And I notice on the site that they point out that a bus route will run through the precinct. Well, you know, we want a lot more of that. We actually sat in on a presentation once, I can't remember how long ago it was, but they were telling us there were going to be buses running every 15 minutes to a railway station where a train went every hour. And we're a little confused about you know, what the other people are going to do, because there's no coffee van at any of the stations. And also, in reference to more public transport, they talk about walking and off-road cycling. So I imagine they're encouraging a lot of people to get mountain bikes and head off to Batteries Creek or to work or wherever you can go, because you're not going to be on a cycle path by the look of that. So there's a whole heap of things that they're talking about and identified. Timing for rezoning, well, that's what we're talking about tonight. Process, I thought, well, gosh, that was a bit rich, them thinking that is a problem. That's our problem with the department, is process. And of course, the issue relating to employment. I noted that they highlighted employment as it relates to the trades, and it's often not mentioned. I mean, we think about employment, we talk about smart hubs, we talk about technology, and we all think that's wonderful. Everybody wants to design a new app. But at the end of the day, people have to fix things, people have to build things. You know, we need the capacity to educate, our next generation of engineers and tradespeople. And I think that hasn't been part of the conversation, and I'd like it to become part of it. So you're going to hear, a lot of a few different things tonight. I think you've obviously heard the core. We're with you. We're working with you to try and get a great outcome. It's a once in a generation opportunity to get this right, and there's a lot of very, very passionate and good, hard-working people within council that are striving for exactly the same things. So, united, we hope to get a result.
Firstly, I'd like to welcome everybody, because I know it's a very cool mind and so passionate about this. And so I just got a few notes I've got down here. As usual, the Department of Planning and Environment have worked with developers, not with the members of the council. The transfer to New South Wales or Department of Education or either other state agent on the plan of Wilton North, Wilton Council previously declared that it would only support development with stressful infrastructure was guaranteed for Wilton. The only infrastructure plan was now included in the upgrade of the Hume Highway and the Picton Road interchange, the new entry X ramp to Hume Highway, M5 as if we need more traffic. With this current state government, the government developer, this current state government is the government for the developer, not for the people of New South Wales. As usual, I expect to hear nothing from the New South Wales state opposition, so we've been bullied with the planning minister if they're opposite. So we have to take this fight up to them. I just we should all start writing to your press, the radio, TV, and the retired local member, opposition party, anyone that you may have any influence. I personally would like to take this fight up with the planning minister, who we have stripped most of our council planning down. Thank you.
Firstly, for me, obviously, like as a councillor, them on board as long as it's done the right way. I moved to Appin 8 years ago with my young family because I grew up in a small community, and I believe that growing up in small communities you learn respect, and people are a lot more friendlier than a city per se. If we go big, Appin's developed now. We have Appin Valley, and I think it's now part of the community. Everyone's a little bit, oh, that's Appin Valley, this is Appin, and I'm sure it probably happened here with Bingara and Wilton, but over time it gels together. So I'm supportive of small development, not 5,500 houses in one hit. I look around the room and there's local school people, the local daycare people, local shopkeepers here, and yes, we do need development to keep all those things going and keep the local shops going. It is sad about the spa that it didn't do so well, it's not doing so well. It does need more houses to make that sort of sustainable, which will then create jobs for young kids and other people in the community. The infrastructure, I look around the room again and see that a few of the local RFS members are in the room. Adding more cars to the road, we all know that the Picton Road, the Hume Highway and Appin Road is notorious for fatal car accidents, and I think that if we don't put train lines in and we put more cars on the road, all we're doing is making volunteers go out in their own time and deal with the trauma of that, and we're not taking that into account either, and it needs to be looked at. The koalas, funnily enough, I was driving over here from Picton tonight, and the NRMA's ad that was on the radio started off with a koala. I don't remember anything else about the ad. All I remember is a koala, and then I was thinking about koalas, so it's pretty tricky, but it's obviously they're a hot topic out there, and the more that we can do to support them and to help them be sustainable and keep breeding and become part of our community, the better.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're just going to make this motion a little bit longer for you. If we could ask the mover and seconder to accept this if possible. It's on point 9. The Council seeks further information through the giver to understand the process and relationships between state government, its policies, advisors and developers in their plans for the south-west growth area, including the local corridor. And also that we attach that Council attaches the media in the application, including Four Corners and local media, in as a joint applicant.
Can we just caption that we attach, that council attach?
The Council attaches the media in the application, including Four Corners, local media, in as a joint applicant.
Local media in the application.
And while you're at it, can we just, where we have koalas in point 3, the disease-free word needs to go in there.
Yeah, on point 3, attaches the media.
And point 6.
Media. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to point out that I've never been so humbled as to be here tonight with you people and to hear the speeches that we heard in the forum. Without a doubt, we come from a wonderful community. They're thoughtful, respectful, and I really appreciated the way in which this group of people around us today had responded. And it was nice then to look back at the motion that was worded by us and to realise, yeah, we're close to the money with you, we're behind you on this, and that's why we call this extraordinary meeting, etc. I'm just amazed at how in the last 3 weeks my whole attitude towards Wilton changed. And it was purely only because of the fact that we were not being listened to. This motion that we're putting up for you tonight is not to stop Wilton from going ahead. This is to ask the questions. This development will go ahead without council support. We know the state government will roll over the top of us. But we're asking them, we're begging them to support you, the community, and get it right. In the history of New South Wales, they've never done it. They've never got it right. This is a brand new canvas to work on. And I respect every speaker here tonight, and I was particularly impressed by Clinton Weaving, wherever you are. I think that to stand up and to try to put a contrary opinion to us was well done. He supported his position well and did himself proud, and the community respected that position as well. I can just add that, though, the thing that I think Clinton and the group that do believe that we should just plough ahead and trust in God that this is going to work out well, it's nonsense. It never has. But if we answer these questions, we will get the netball courts, we'll get everything that we want. Bad planning resulted in not having netball courts in Wilton. Bad planning causes a small business to go down. This is good planning. We're asking the right questions, we want the solutions. Then we're 100% support it, and we'll call another extraordinary meeting to do that.
So I've just got 2 slight amendments to add to this as well. We'll add number 10. As part of the June ordinary meeting of Council, the Council reconsiders its position. Number 11. invite urgently the Department of Planning and Minister of Planning to discuss Council's position and work on a strategy to resolve Council and the community's concerns. So I can move them second if you can accept those.
I can accept it, but we're already meeting with them tomorrow, so we'll be delivering this tomorrow. Yep, we can, I mean, that's what the motion says anyway. It says until, so it'll be until, yeah,
Yeah, it's until we got the. I know it's coming to the June meeting anyway, so we can assess what response we've had, and we can make a judgment then.
Can I have your written 11? Can I have your words for 11?
Just mind the spelling. John Smith's of the world, I won't be too happy with that. I've always been supportive of Wilton Junction right from the get-go, and a lot of the studies back in, I think it was 2011, weren't available back then as what they were now. We did have our former general manager here, Leslie Martin, was here earlier as well. He was in there in the beginning as well. So there is a lot of history with Wilton Junction and Warrnambool Council. In saying that, this is going to be the 5th largest regional town in New South Wales, and that is exciting on its part there, and I'm excited to be part of that journey as well. So there are a lot of positives to be gained from this new town, and the amendments put through council, I hope that we can get a speedy response from the department and relevant ministers, because certainly we don't need it to be held up. And as some of the speakers rightly said, schools are incredibly important and they're full to capacity, and we do have a way forward where we've got an independent school that's ready to kick off and turn dirt almost immediately. So the sooner that these issues can be resolved, the better for all.
I think most of the other speakers have covered a lot of the key points, but I suppose I'm one of many of the new councillors that have been in this term. Certainly since I've been on council, we've been negotiating in good faith with both the Department of Planning and the developers to try to deliver a great town for Wilton. And I don't think what we've been asking for as a great town has actually really been that much. I mean, we've been asking for basic things like jobs and infrastructure. That's not a huge ask, I don't think. If we're going to have growth, we've always been told that with growth comes the services, comes the facilities. Well, all we're asking is that social contract be adhered to, that the developers actually provide, and the state government provide the things that they said would be provided as a result of this. We've had the audacity to demand that development comes with appropriate services and facilities, and as a result of that, we've been getting the smackdown. It's become, very sadly, it's become very clear that the developers and the Department of Planning have not been negotiating in good faith. To be short, I'm sick of your empty words. They really only care for cramming in as many people as they possibly can, with absolutely no regard for the quality of life, the people that are going to live there, or the environmental devastation that they're causing through this process. We've got one chance to get this planning right. We've got one opportunity to do it properly. If we get it wrong, we're going to end up with Oran Park. And look at the mess they're going through now, trying to retrofit rail into Oran Park. It's costing them billions of dollars that they wouldn't have had to spend if they'd taken the time to get the thing right the first time around. But they didn't. They helped their developer mates. Their developer mates came in, put cookie-cutter houses through the whole thing, and the community are the ones that suffer. And it spends a fortune trying to fix the mess after the fact. They've been really disingenuous with this as well, I've got to say. We had a meeting with some fairly senior planning people a month or so ago, and at no point did they mention in there that this was coming. We had staff that were caught off guard when they went into a meeting the day before, no mention, and this gets thrown on us. They haven't been negotiating in good faith. They've been looking after the developer mates, and that's that. The council and the community haven't been asking for anything unreasonable here at all. And it's a bit stunning that for being so bold as to insist on basic infrastructure for our community, walkers have set their attack dog on the mayor because we want to make sure that we've got some basic stuff for the community. It's ridiculous. At the moment, there are 16,764 houses in Wollongong. That's the size that Wilton will end up being, I'm quite sure. You know, they're saying 15,000, it'll be bigger. So what we're saying is that's the equivalent of putting every car that there is in the Shire on the Hume Highway and on Picton Road every day. Take everything that is there now, take every car in the entire Shire. That is going to be the reality of Wilton if they don't get this right. And they show no interest in getting this right, despite the council asking again and again and again for, you know, let's look out for the community, let's do the right thing here. We have an opportunity to get this right. The railway parking now is full when you go to Campbelltown. Where are all these people going to park? How are they going to get there? It's just absolute insanity not to have rail. And we're not insisting that rail has to be there now. We're saying there has to be a clear plan for rail. You can't build a town the size of Port Macquarie and go, yeah, good luck, onto Picton Road, onto the Hume Highway, off you go on your merry way. All it's doing is entrenching disadvantage for generations of residents who are going to come out here because they're so desperate to get a foot in the market that they'll accept services that, frankly, the state government should be ashamed of, that they're, you know, willing to do that. The other really big issue we've got is the koalas there. It's the only chlamydia-free population in New South Wales. The OEH identified the importance and the significance of the Allens Creek corridor. That report has suspiciously disappeared. They initially recommended that they needed to protect, you know, the entirety of the corridor. The corridor is now proposed to be reduced down to 100 metres. And that 100-metre corridor will be further reduced when they widen Picton Road. So you're taking the most important corridor for the long-term viability of koalas in the Shire and are absolutely ripping it apart purely so that the developers can get a few more houses in there. They don't need to put houses there. There are thousands and thousands of houses going in. They could quite easily have not put them there and protected this critically important corridor, but they didn't. I also find it very interesting that there were some changes made with the Biodiversity Conservation Act. And what that does, it has a much bigger focus on the strategic outlook, and it looks at things like corridors for wildlife movement. At the moment in Wollongong, it doesn't apply. We're in the transition and it's going to be coming in over the next few months. The cynic in me finds it very interesting that it's been, the rezoning here at Wilton has been pushed through before it starts applying here. It seems awfully convenient timing to my mind. I also find it really interesting that if this was council considering it, as Councillor Deeth said, there would be a comprehensive plan of management for the koalas. We don't have one. It's been kicked, the can's been kicked down the road that, yeah, it would be done at the DA stage, it would be done there. And, you know, I'm quite sure that there will be a consultant found that will give them the result that they want, despite the fact the OEH have identified how important this is. There's really something not right here in the way this whole thing has gone down. I take my role as a councillor really seriously. I see myself as a custodian of the Shire, and that we're entrusted by its communities to protect what makes the Shire so special. I can't sit idly by anymore as a greedy developer who cares about nothing except maximising their bottom line, rapes and pillages some of our most important and critical koala habitat, and entrenches disadvantage for a whole generation of residents, aided and abetted by a complicit Department of Planning. The developers and the state government have shown no genuine desire to make Wilton a great town. They're just doing the absolute bare minimum they can to tick a box and pay lip service. Given that's the case, we've got to move to the no town at all option. If they're not going to give us the basic facilities that we need to make this work, then I'm not willing to put my name to it, and the council shouldn't, and the community shouldn't suffer that. It's just not on.
Just a few comments before we vote. Interestingly enough, when we had a commissioner originally from the Greater Sydney Commission, they used Oran Park as a photo of what we shouldn't look like. They used it as an example of what we shouldn't do. We're making our judgment now. We actually have an appointment with the Department of Planning tomorrow, and we'll be taking this resolution into them. We will, obviously we want Wilton to go ahead and be a great new town, but the question is what if, and I guess the what if is that council withdraws its in principle support until these issues have been looked at. As community, you need to get onto our website. There's a website called, part of the website's Engage Wallandilly. If you put your details there, we will be updating that with any messages as we go along. You need to know that all your councillors are in this together. So I guess you're probably all as dopey as me and as untalented as me. I'm sure we'll get a spray tomorrow. But you know what? The power for change comes from community. And I think the message is Wallandilly will not be stomped on through the M9, through bad planning at Wilton. I don't know what's going on. It just doesn't make any sense, but we will not be stomped on, and we will either have Wilton a great new town, or we'll have no town at all. So I'll put that to councillors. The motion is, just clarify, do we need to clarify any wording? It's all done. Yep, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye, and it's carried unanimously. So thank you all for attending this evening. As I said, get on to Engage Wallandilly so that you get updated as we go along. I'm sure there's, get your petitions. Please send those in for us about the koalas and about the rezoning. And I'm sure the groups that are here, no matter who you are or what your opinion is, would love to have you help them get a great new town. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Travel safe.